The true cost of domestication. A wolf pauses at the edge of a firelit clearing. The night is cold. The air smells of smoke, meat, and unfamiliar creatures moving in the darkness. Beyond the trees, a group of humans sits around a fire. Their shadows tremble against the earth. The wolf watches. The humans do not notice. For a moment, nothing happens. Then one of the people tosses a bone into the darkness, a tiny gesture, almost meaningless. And yet that small arc through the night may have altered the future of life on Earth. Not because the wolf was captured, not because it was defeated, but because for the first time, a wild animal found something more powerful than freedom. Predictability. Most people imagine domestication as a story of human control, a story in which humanity conquered nature, bent wild creatures to its will, and transformed them into tools, companions, and livestock. That is the story we tell ourselves. It is also incomplete, because domestication was never simply something humans did to animals. It was something that happened to both. And the deeper researchers look into its history, the stranger that relationship becomes. The true cost of domestication was not paid only by wolves, cattle, horses, chickens, or cats. It was paid by entire species, including our own. Long before cities existed, before kingdoms rose and collapsed, before writing preserved memory, every creature on Earth lived inside a world defined by uncertainty. A deer could not predict tomorrow. A wolf could not predict its next meal. A human could not predict whether winter would bring survival or starvation. Life was movement. Life was vigilance. Life was adaptation. Every sunrise carried risk. Every sunset carried possibility. Evolution had shaped nervous systems for this reality. Brains became prediction machines, constantly scanning for danger, opportunity, and change. Nothing remained still for the long. And then something extraordinary began to happen. In different parts of the world, separated by oceans and centuries, certain animals started drifting toward humanity. Not because humans were stronger, not because humans captured them all, but because some individuals discovered an evolutionary shortcut. Living near humans reduced uncertainty. Food scraps appeared regularly. Predators stayed away. Shelter became easier to find. The risks of the wild began to shrink. And in evolutionary terms, reduced risk can be more valuable than increased freedom. That trade changed everything. Scientists studying domestication have noticed a pattern so consistent that it appears almost impossible. Across completely different species, the same physical changes emerge again and again. Shorter snouts, smaller teeth, floppier ears, altered coat colors, reduced aggression, smaller brains. The pattern appears in dogs. It appears in pigs. It appears in cattle. It appears in rabbits. It even appears in experimental fox populations raised under domestication conditions. Different animals, different continents, different histories. Yet, the same transformation. As if nature keeps writing the same story, using different characters. Researchers still debate every mechanism behind this phenomenon. But one possibility carries unsettling implications. Selection for reduced fear may unintentionally reshape entire bodies. Change behavior, and anatomy follows. Change temperament, and biology reorganizes itself around a new reality. Domestication does not merely alter what an animal does, it alters what an animal becomes. And hidden inside that transformation is a question few people ask. What exactly is being lost? Imagine standing in a forest 10,000 years ago. Every sound matters. A branch snaps. Your attention shifts instantly. A shadow moves. Your muscles prepare. a strange smell drifts through the air. Your brain begins calculating possibilities before conscious thought arrives. Survival depends upon sensitivity. The wild rewards awareness. The wild punishes complacency. Now imagine generations of descendants living in protected environments. Food arrives consistently. Predators disappear. Threats become rare. The nervous system no longer faces the same demands. Gradually, over centuries, traits once essential begin fading. The extraordinary becomes unnecessary. The unnecessary becomes expensive. And evolution is ruthless about expenses. Many domesticated animals possess reduced cognitive abilities compared to their wild ancestors. Not because they became defective, because they no longer needed the same mental architecture. Nature had optimized them for a different world, a safer world, a simpler world, a narrower world. The trade seems reasonable, until we realize how often the same process appears in human history. The agricultural revolution is usually described as humanity's greatest achievement, the moment civilization began, the moment chaos gave way to order, the moment humanity took control of its destiny. That is one interpretation. Another is far less comfortable. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans lived as hunter-gatherers. They moved across landscapes. They adapted continuously. They survived through flexibility. Then agriculture arrived, and suddenly people stopped moving. Fields demanded permanence. Stored grain demanded protection. Settlements demanded organization. Organization demanded hierarchy. Hierarchy demanded obedience. What emerged was not simply a new food system, it was an entirely new relationship with reality. For the first time, large populations became dependent upon predictable environments. The same thing that had attracted wolves toward human camps was now reshaping humanity itself. Stability, security, reliability. The rewards were enormous. So were the consequences. Archaeologists have uncovered a strange paradox. Early agricultural societies often showed signs of declining health compared to some hunter-gatherer populations. Average height decreased. Nutritional diversity narrowed. Disease spread more easily. Physical labor intensified. Civilization brought abundance. But it also brought vulnerability. A crop failure could threaten thousands. A drought could destabilize entire regions. Dependence replaced flexibility, and dependence has a hidden price. The more a system protects you from uncertainty, the more devastating uncertainty becomes when it finally arrives. This pattern echoes across biology, across history, across psychology, across civilization itself. What appears to be safety can gradually become fragility, and fragility rarely announces itself until the moment it breaks. Perhaps this is why domestication feels strangely familiar. Because it is not merely a biological process, it is a psychological one. Every creature faces the same fundamental dilemma. Freedom offers possibility. Security offers predictability. Rarely can both be maximized simultaneously. The wild animal chooses uncertainty and risk. The domesticated animal chooses stability and protection. Neither option is entirely right. Neither option is entirely wrong. But each creates a different kind of existence. And somewhere inside modern civilization, humanity continues negotiating the same bargain. Every institution reduces uncertainty. Every technology removes friction. Every system increases predictability. And each improvement quietly reshapes the environment in which human minds evolved. The question is no longer whether domestication changes behavior. The question is whether comfort changes consciousness. Researchers studying modern psychology have observed another curious pattern. Humans often experience stress not only from hardship, but from the absence of meaningful challenge. A life stripped entirely of uncertainty does not necessarily create fulfillment. Sometimes it creates restlessness, anxiety, disorientation, as though something ancient inside the mind expects resistance, expects obstacles, expects unpredictability. For millions of years, nervous systems evolved in dynamic environments. They evolved amid storms, migrations, failures, surprises, and risks. Now, many people live within environments engineered to minimize all of them. The achievement is remarkable, yet the psychological consequences remain unclear. Scientists continue investigating why comfort and dissatisfaction so often coexist. The data provides clues, but not complete answers. Perhaps because the question itself reaches beyond science. It touches something older, something philosophical, something deeply human. The story of domestication is often told as a triumph, and in many ways, it is. Billions of animals exist today because domestication made them successful. Human civilization became possible because agriculture created stability. Life expectancy increased, knowledge accumulated, technology flourished. The world transformed. Yet every gain carries a shadow. Every adaptation closes doors while opening others. Every solution creates new constraints. Evolution never gives gifts. It negotiates exchanges. Always, the wolf gained certainty and became the dog. The wild grasses gained protection and became crops. Humanity gained civilization and became something different as well. Something powerful, something comfortable, something dependent upon systems so vast that no individual can fully understand them. The transformation continues even now. Perhaps it always will. And so the true cost of domestication cannot be measured in bones, genes, or centuries. It cannot be measured in farms, cities, or populations. The deepest cost is harder to see. It is the gradual narrowing of possibilities, the replacement of uncertainty with structure, the exchange of adaptability for stability, a trade that appears beneficial in the present and only reveals its full consequences across generations. Somewhere beyond the glow of the first human fire, a wolf once stood in the darkness and made no conscious decision at all. It simply followed the incentives life placed before it. One step closer, then another, and another. Thousands of years later, we often imagine ourselves as the architects of domestication, the masters directing the process, the species in control. But standing inside vast networks of routine, technology, institutions, and predictable systems, it becomes difficult to ignore a final possibility. Perhaps domestication was never a destination. Perhaps it was always a force that reshapes every living thing it touches, a force that rewards safety, punishes uncertainty, and slowly alters the creatures that accept its bargain, including us. And if that is true, then the most important question is not what domestication did to animals. It is what it is still doing to humanity. Because somewhere beneath modern life, beneath concrete, algorithms, schedules, and screens, the ancient wilderness has not entirely disappeared. It waits, silent, patient, like a memory evolution never fully erased. And every so often, in moments of uncertainty, challenge, risk, or wonder, we catch a glimpse of it again. A reminder that the story of civilization may not be the story of escaping the wild, but the story of how much of it we were willing to trade away. Like and subscribe. See you in the next